And I didn't even really understand it back then. It is the linchpin of this whole system breaking apart because it'll blow up the bullion banks, which will blow up the system. The bullion banks are the big commercial banks. It'll blow up the whole system. The lack of trust will have been shown to be of epidemic proportions. No one will ever trust us again. They won't trust the West. And I think that's exactly what is happening. This is why the banks are showing up in Shanghai begging for silver. If you can't export gold, you can only export silver. And we see massive deficits in both the COMEX and the LBMA in terms of stockpiles. Where are they going to get it to cover these short positions? And I think that's what you see happening. So I don't know, man. I think it's getting really crazy, Chris. I really do. And Jeffrey kind of illuminated it by, saying, look, these countries have chosen to move away from the treasury and move to commodities. They're the ones who are buying the contracts that the stupid banks are naked shorting by creating these contracts. Well, now they want delivery. What's going to happen? Maybe they went there and begged them not to take delivery. Why did Janet Yellen go to Brazil, or begging them to buy treasuries? Why is Jamie Dimon in China right now? Is he begging?
In 2011, a survey of bullion banks revealed the shocking truth. The actual trading numbers are 10 times higher than reported. If we take this as gospel, that means they're trading 200 million ounces of gold and 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day. This overwhelming system with paper contracts suppresses prices. But here's where it gets critical. The US government, with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, is now begging countries like Brazil to buy US treasuries. Simultaneously, major banks like JP Morgan Chase, with CEO Jamie Dimon in China, are pleading to avoid a silver market blow-up. They're trading over 3.5 times global mine production per day. And now these contracts are demanding delivery. The lack of trust in the West has reached epidemic proportions, leading to a potential collapse of the bullion banks and the entire financial system.
That there was a survey done at the bullion banks in 2011, which said the real number is 10 times that. Because if you sell 20 contracts and buy 10, the LBMA only publishes the net, which is 10. It was actually 30 that you traded. So if we take that to be gospel, that there's 10 times the amount that they're telling us is probably more, that would mean that they're trading 200 million ounces of gold per day. And that would mean that they're trading 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day on the LBMA, which, in other words, they're trading over 3.5 times global mine production per day on the LBMA. This is how you suppress the price, by overwhelming the system with paper contracts. And what's the COMEX? 1,1700% rehypothecated, overwhelm the system. But when you realize that the LBMA silver trading is only 3% of the gold trading in terms of dollar value, it's a tiny market, and you overwhelm it with paper, you can control the market until you get countries like India, who accumulate 600 million ounces, and China voraciously accumulating it. They understand what you've been saying forever. No one was listening. I did, but most didn't, and now they will. And you will go down, as someone who saw it way early, that silver is the linchpin. And I didn't even really understand it back then. It is the linchpin of this whole system breaking apart because it'll blow up the bullion banks, which will blow up the system. The bullion banks are the big commercial banks. It'll blow up the whole system. The lack of trust will have been shown to be of epidemic proportions. No one will ever trust us again. They won't trust the West. And I think that's exactly what is happening. This is why the banks are showing up in Shanghai begging for silver. If you can't export gold, you can only export silver. And we see massive deficits in both the COMEX and the LBMA in terms of stockpiles. Where are they going to get it to cover these short positions? And I think that's what you see happening. So I don't know, man. I think it's getting really crazy, Chris. I really do. And Jeffrey kind of illuminated it by saying, look, these countries have chosen to move away from the treasury and move to commodities. They're the ones who are buying the contracts that the stupid banks are naked shorting by creating these contracts. Well, now they want delivery. What's going to happen? Maybe they went there and begged them not to take delivery. Why did Janet Yellen go to Brazil, or begging them to buy treasuries? Why is Jamie Dimon in China right now? Is he begging? Don't blow up the silver market. Let's work out a deal. I don't know, but I think when you see arbitrage of $4 plus it tells you that they're not making it easy, and I don't expect them to, and they're not doing this out of benevolence. There is a quid pro quo going on, and the bullion banks have to offer up something. And at some point, there'll be nothing left to offer up in a world where commodities rule and paper currencies don't. Right now, we're transitioning there. The dollar still has a great deal of value globally. But what happens when it doesn't? What happens when, no, we don't want it? Because, the old saying, he who has the gold, I would say, he who has the gold, the silver, the platinum, the palladium, the uranium, the rare earth metals, and the food, and the copper, they make the rules. And I think that's the transition that we see ourselves heading into. Today, the BRICS and the BRICS plus deputy finance ministers and central bank governors are meeting today. I wonder if this is the topic of what they're talking about. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And I guess only time will tell, but you're right. October's coming close and we're getting there. And then you have the biggest election in our history, maybe mine for sure, my life. And, at least in my opinion. So I think these are very interesting times, man. It's only going to get crazier as far as I'm concerned. But look, it's inevitable. And when you realize that the money supply M2 is up 14 times since 1980, and yet gold is 60% of its high, it's being managed. And the BRICS, they want the metal, like Vince has said on your show. They don't care about correlations. They don't care about anything. They don't care about a strong dollar. They don't care about positive real return. They want the stuff. This is a new era. These are new rules that we are heading into, and they're changing the rules that they've been forced to play under for centuries. And now they're finding safety in numbers, and they have wealth and coordinated wealth. They have a larger swath of population and military might and sophistication. And I find it alarming at how this is being understated by the people who are supposedly sophisticated, poo-pooed by the dollar bulls and the recency bias crowd and the normalcy bias crowd. When you talk about something like the unit that would very quickly engulf the whole Southern Hemisphere, the ramifications on the dollar are extraordinary. And it may not happen all at once until it does. This is the little by little by little by little, then bang, all at once. And that's coming. And if you don't see that, at least the potential of it, and get out of the way of it, you'll end up being a victim as far as I'm concerned. You try and say that stuff, Chris. I try and say that stuff with the highest level of sincerity I can muster up. This isn't about trying to send more money to Miles Franklin for metal sales. I mean, I'm long past that. And I just think that I hope people are waking up. These things that can just be trivially, can just be blown off. The unit. Well, the unit's a real big deal, a really big deal. If indeed we're that close to it being accepted, you're going to have the majority of human population trading outside of dollars and settling outside of treasuries, or using excess instead of treasuries into commodities, and the drive to accumulate this stuff in order to fit into the unit is going to be extraordinary. This is a once in a generation shift. I hope people are paying attention. Yeah, I mean, it shocked me the amount of selling into this rally. It's a contrarian indicator. It just is. I mean, the capitulation, when you reach these levels, the belief that, I have a really good friend of mine who was emailing me last night, texting me like, I want to sell the silver that you have. I want to put it all in on this medical device stock or whatever. And I didn't even want to go down the road with them. And okay. People, because he says, I think it could go into the 40s and maybe touch 50. He says, okay. Well, I mean, the lack of belief, I think the lack of understanding is high. And so there's been a lot of selling into the rally, creating, an environment where we have, as an example, backdate kangaroos on sale right now for 310 over spot. These are coins that were selling at $6, $7, $8, $9 over most of the last 4 years. We have the half-ounce polar bear. And by the way, the kangaroo I love. It's one of the two purest coins in the world at 4 nines, and come in boxes at 250. instead of 500 mini mint boxes. And then we have the half ounce polar bears from Canada. They're also 4.9 fine pure. It's Canada and Australia, the only two 4.9 fine pure coins that are made by a sovereign mint. And these are half ounce coins, $2.50 over per coin melt value. So $5 over spot per ounce. But they come in boxes of 240 coins or 120 ounces per box. And from a standpoint of utility and flexibility, they're the best I've seen, next to pre-65 junk silver, because I don't know of another sovereign mint other than the Mexican mint, and they're really expensive, that make fractional silver coins. So they're both on sale right now. Limited quantity of the polar bears, but I did buy a large quantity of the backdate Australian kangaroos at 310 over spot. And Chris, I love you, buddy. Crazy times, man. Going to be a lot to talk about over the next few months, for sure.
Thanks for watching today's video. Let's recap the critical points we covered. A 2011 survey revealed that the actual trading volumes of gold and silver are 10 times higher than reported, with 200 million ounces of gold and 2.9 billion ounces of silver traded daily. This overwhelming trading with paper contracts suppresses prices, making it a strategy to control the market. The US government, with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, is now begging countries like Brazil to buy US treasuries. Major banks, including JP Morgan Chase, are in China pleading to avoid a catastrophic silver market blow-up as countries like India and China voraciously accumulate precious metals. The lack of trust in the Western financial system has reached epidemic proportions, threatening the collapse of bullion banks and the entire financial system. We're witnessing a shift towards a commodity-driven world, where those holding gold, silver, and other critical resources will dictate the rules. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful updates. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave your opinions in the comments section below.